there, welcome back to the homestead. My name is Constance and today I am working on canning carrots. This is the first video for the canning collaboration that is going on all through the month of March. Every day, Monday through Friday, there will be a brand new video going on one of the participating channels. And you can find a link to all of those channels down below underneath this video. And we are going through canning all of the things that we either need a little bit more of on our pantry shelves, or if we are making room in our freezer because garden season is going to be here pretty soon. It's kind of that last ditch, can what you need before things start getting really busy on the homestead. And so one of the things that I needed more of in my pantry when I went through and did my inventory recently was plain canned carrots. I love having some of the canned carrots, just kind of the diced carrots. That way I can just open up a jar, toss it into a pot of stew. I can drain them out and put them in a saucepan with a little bit of butter, maybe a little drizzle of honey, and have a really easy side dish. So it's very convenient to have canned carrots on the pantry shelf. So that is what I am doing today. This is a pressure canning recipe because carrots are a low acid food, therefore they must be pressure canned. And so to get started, I am washing all of my carrots, then I'm trimming off the ends and peeling them, and then they will get washed again before I dice them all up to go into the jars. So I have about 10 pounds of carrots that I'm working my way through here, and I've already washed a whole bunch of jars over there. I like to use pint jars when I'm doing ingredients like this because if I want more, I can always open 2 jars. But more often than not, when I'm using these carrots, I'm really only going to need a pint, and so that's just how I like to do my carrots. So we have a beautiful day out there today, not a cloud in the sky, and it's a lovely temperature, so I'm able to open up my windows, get some fresh air going on in here, and it is a welcome break after all of this rain that we have had. We have had a wet winter, and I can tell you in the last 2 weeks we have gotten over 2 feet of rain, and that is not an exaggeration, and it may not have been like that everywhere, but I know here on the homestead that is how much rain we have gotten because I measure it. I keep track of how much rainfall we get here, and it's been a doozy around here. Just when it starts to dry out, you get a massive onslaught of more rain, and then it's right back to mud everywhere. So we are definitely enjoying this beautiful weather, and from what I understand, it is not supposed to rain all the rest of the week. We are supposed to have sunny skies. And so I am definitely going to appreciate that. So tomorrow, for me, I actually have a pickup for my Asia Standard order that I put in. If you're not familiar with Asia Standard, they are a company that basically does bulk shipment of groceries, and they deliver all over the place. And so they deliver here in the Huntsville area once a month, and you basically go on their website, you put in what you want to order, and then when the ordering time closes, they let you know what time, and usually you already know ahead of time what day they're going to deliver. Sometimes they do have to change it by a day or so just because of, you know, weather or what have you. But when the truck comes in, everybody gets there a little bit ahead of time. They all help unload and put all of everything into the separate orders, and then you just go and you get your groceries and you take them on home. And it's a great way to get organic foods of all different things. I mean, you can get shampoo and conditioner. I mean, you can get all sorts of things. Just about everything that you could find in a grocery store, you could get from Asia Standard. And it's just a great way to get organic groceries if you don't have a grocery store around you that carries a lot of it. You know, just keeping it real. Not everybody's got a Whole Foods or something like that around them. As a matter of fact, here in my town, there is a grocery store that I don't think the word organic exists in that store. And some places, that's all you got. So if you have access to an Asia Standard delivery, it's definitely worth it to put in that order and have access to that. So when my order comes in tomorrow, I've got a whole bunch of potatoes coming. And so I am going to be canning potatoes this week. And I actually have a lot of people who have asked me, why do you can potatoes? Well, I can potatoes for a couple of reasons. Number one, there is nothing like being able to make basically instant mashed potatoes in minutes, except they're from real potatoes. They are, you know, right out of your pantry. We often will have cheesy mashed potatoes or garlic mashed potatoes, and they're done in minutes, and it's not like instant potatoes with questionable ingredients. You know what it is. It's real potatoes. You can just open them up and dump them into a stew. It's super convenient. That's the number one issue. But number two, which is equally important, is the fact that I live in Alabama. We don't get super cold winters here. I mean, we'll have cold spells, but it's not like living in the Midwest or something like that. And the other thing is, where we live, we have a very, very high water table, which means we don't have a basement. We do not have a basement that we can store root vegetables and things like that in. When I buy potato, now my laundry room over there, which doubles as my little pantry, it does stay kind of cool in the winter. However, when I buy potatoes and I put them in my pantry, within a week they're starting to grow. I just don't have the ability to keep fresh potatoes here in my house. And I have nowhere outside where I could put them. I just don't. And so if I want to have potatoes that can keep, I really have to can them. That's the best way to do it. Now, I will say that the sweet potatoes that I grew this year, you know, they're sitting on the concrete floor because that's what's underneath this. We're on an elevated, I guess it's called an elevated slab. The sweet potatoes are keeping, but sweet potatoes tend to keep way, way better than your russets or your golds or your reds or anything like that. At least that's how it always works in my house. So why do I can root vegetables? Because that is the only way they're going to keep. Okay, so I've got all of my carrots peeled and the ends trimmed. I went ahead and washed them a second time just to make sure there's nothing icky in here. I've got my big pot over there filling up, and now I'm going to begin dicing up all of these carrots and putting them into pint jars. Now, when I'm doing things that are going to be in liquid, stuff that I want to try and keep submerged in the liquid, I like to use the narrower jars, the ones with the regular sized opening, because they have these little shoulders here. And so when you pack the contents down into the liquid, these kind of help keep it down in there. I mean, sometimes something will pop up out. As long as that jar is sealed, it's still fine. It may discolor a little bit in there because it's exposed and out of the liquid, but it's still good. It's just gonna look a little weird. Now I washed a whole bunch of jars. I don't know how many exactly I'm going to need. And that's a great thing about cold packing, because you don't have to have everything exact right away. If I need a few more jars, I can just wash a few more. And so I'm going to just start dicing these up and filling the jars as I go, and we'll see how many we got. All of my carrots are ready over here. I ended up with a dozen pints of the diced carrots, and I have a big old pot of water over there that's coming up to a boil. I actually intended to start that while I was doing the carrots, totally forgot. So once that comes up to a boil, we'll be ready to ladle the boiling water into the carrots. I'll add a half a teaspoon of salt to each jar. So while that's finishing up, I'm going to get out my lids and wash these real quick. So today I'm actually going to be using some new lids, new to me, and actually kind of newish too. This brand is called Forjars, and they actually reached out to me to see if I would like to give their jars a try. So this is kind of a little bit of a review of the jar lids, but I do have several friends who have also given these lids a try, and they really liked them. From what they have said is these don't feel like the cheapy lids that you see nowadays coming from some brands. Oh yeah, they have a nice, like that gasket on there feels good. I mean, some of these, it's almost like it's not even there. So I'm going to wash up a dozen of these lids, and we're going to use my Forjars lids today. I'm going to go ahead and put the half a teaspoon of salt in each jar here. And the water is almost ready. So while I have another second here, I wanted to just take a moment to talk about my new t-shirt that I have here. This t-shirt, so this really cute design here is actually part of a fundraiser for adoption. One of my very sweet closest friends adopted several children, and in order to be able to raise the funds for those adoptions, they sold t-shirts. That was a way to raise the money to do it. Adopting children is so incredibly expensive, but it is such a great cause. And even though they are not looking to adopt more children, they do help other people out by helping them raise funds so that other families can adopt children. And so this t-shirt is a shirt that I got through their current fundraiser for another wonderful family to bring a child into their home. And if you are interested in getting one of these, they cost $25. I'm not paid to do this. I just think adoption is amazing. I mean, we are all, if you are a believer in Jesus, Yeshua, you are grafted in, you are adopted into God's family, and so what greater purpose is there? And so I always like to support stuff like this. So if you would like to get one of these t-shirts, I will put a link to my friend's Instagram account down below. She and her family have a small farm, and they called it ASA, which is Adoption Story Acres. So if you want to support that fundraiser, you can message her through her Instagram account, and she can reach out to you that way. All right, and perfect timing. The water just started boiling. And so I'm just going to turn that down so that it's not splashing everywhere. And so now we're just going to go ahead and we're going to ladle this boiling water into the jars. And for this recipe, you want a 1-inch head space, which again is the distance between the top of the food, or the contents I should say. In this case it's mostly going to be the water, and the top of the jar. And so we're going to kind of get it right about at that height for each jar. And then I will use my bubble wand over here to get all the bubbles out. And then if we need to add a little bit extra water to make up any space from that air, then we can do that. And when you're filling these jars with the carrots, you want to pack them in as tightly as you can get them. You really want to fill that space in, because as these carrots cook in the pressure canner, they will kind of shrink a little bit, and so you're going to end up with a little more space in there than you have initially. And so you just want to get as much as you can in there. Alright, so we've got all of our jars filled. So I'm going to take my handy dandy bubble wand and just basically kind of wiggle the carrots around to work out any bubbles. And then we'll push the carrots back down in there. And when get back down in there, make sure they're all down under the liquid. Now that level did drop down just a hair. So we'll bring that back up. Wipe the rim with some vinegar, with some white vinegar. We're going to put a lid on. Again, that's a Forjars lid. Put on a ring and into the pressure canner. And we're going to repeat that process with all of the jars. Alright, my canner is filled with all of my jars. I've got about 3 inches of water down in the bottom of my pressure canner with a splash of white vinegar. That helps prevent any buildup from the minerals in the water. And so now I'm going to put my lid on here. This is an all-American canner, and we've got a little notch, a little arrow here that lines up with the notch on the canner. We're going to get that on there, line it up, and turn it. And then I'm going to double check, make sure my lid is nice and level. So I'm going to need to raise it up here in the back. If you start off with it nice and level before you start closing the wing nuts, it helps you ensure that your lid is level and that you get a good seal on your canner. So now I'm going to raise up my wing nuts. I'm just going to kind of get them in place, but I'm not going to start tightening them down yet. I'm just going to get them all up here in position, ready and waiting. double check that we're still level. And then we're going to start tightening it down. And you're going to do this like a tire, doing opposite sides at the same time. Alright, make sure we're still good. Looks good. And so now we're going to start heating this up. I mean, I've already had it on like kind of a medium heat to get it preheated a little bit. And so now we're going to turn up the heat. We're going to let this get hotter and hotter until we have a nice steady stream of steam coming out of the port right here. Once we get that steady stream, we'll set a timer for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we'll go ahead and we'll put the weight on. And this particular recipe goes at 10 pounds pressure. If you are using a canner that primarily uses a gauge, you would go with 11 pounds, but I use the weight for this, so it's the 10 pounds pressure. And for this recipe, the pint jars will process for 25 minutes. If I was doing quarts, it would be 30 minutes. And of course, anytime you're getting a recipe for canning, you have to take into account your elevation. The times that recipes will give you are for the low elevation near sea level. If you live at a higher elevation, you are going to have to adjust your pressure or your time, your processing time, according to your elevation. And I actually have a chart on my website that shows you how to adjust canning recipes for your elevation if you do happen to live at a higher one than I do. Here where we are, I'm pretty low elevation, not too far from sea level, and so I just use the standard instructions that come with all canning recipes. But you do need to know what your elevation is, and there's lots of resources online where you can put in your zip code, or you can even use like geolocation on your phone with some websites or apps that can tell you exactly what your elevation is, especially if you live in a mountainous area where you might have many elevations in the same zip code. So it's pretty important to know what your elevation is. So be sure to get that information if you don't know it already. Now as my canner heats up and I start getting that steam coming out here, I am going to double check around my edges of my lid. I'll make sure I don't have any steam escaping, because if I do, it means I don't have a good seal on my lid. With the All-American canner, because you don't have a rubber gasket, it's metal on metal, and so you actually put a very thin film of oil on where the lid and the canner itself meet. You don't have to do it every single time, but you do want to do it pretty frequently. You want to make sure you can feel that oil on there. Just a really light thin film. So if I don't have a good seal, then I'll just have to let this cool down, open this up, make sure I have that oiled, make sure my lid is level, and then start over. But I've never had that happen. Just kind of following the steps, and it hasn't really been anything I had to worry about. So we're going to let this start steaming, and then we'll add the weight and we'll set the timer, and I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, my canner is done processing. The pressure came down. I removed the weight. It sat for another minute or so. And so now I'm going to open up my lid. And we're going to just let the jars rest in there for a few more minutes. Ooh, look at how hot they are. Boiling away. So now we'll just let these sit for a few minutes, and then we will transfer them over to my canning mat and let them cool. Okay, you guys, so my carrots are all over there cooling on the counter, draft-free location, etc. And so now I will let them sit overnight, and tomorrow I'll remove the rings, test the seals, make sure they're all good, which I'm sure they will be. To be honest, I almost never have a seal failure when I'm canning. I have a pretty good track record with it. And if you would like to get more information about the Forjars canning lids, I will put a link to that underneath my video here in the description. And so you can check them out. They are a family-owned company. You know, they saw the shortage that we were having with the canning supplies, and so they stepped up and started making lids right here in the United States. So you can check those out at the link below. And canning carrots is a very basic recipe. I mean, it's not even really a recipe, it's more a how-to, a technique. But it's standard. But I do have a printable of this on my website. If you would like to print that out for your convenience, I will put a link to that down below. Now, as I shared in the beginning, this is part of the March Canning Madness collaboration. Be sure to check out all of the videos for all of the participants all throughout the month of March. If you leave a comment under the video, that comment is an entry to the giveaway that is going to be taking place at the end of the month. So every video that you watch and every comment that you leave under that video is an entry, and you can comment and enter on every video. There will be a playlist of all of the videos, which you will be able to find linked under this video as well. And I will add to it every day as new videos go live, Monday through Friday. And if you missed what the giveaway was at the end of the month, it is a steam canner, which is one that you see me use very frequently here in my kitchen, as well as lots of goodies that will go with that. It is not sponsored by anyone except me, and it is open to anyone wherever you live. I am not limiting that on geographical location, so as long as where you live allows giveaways, then you are free to enter and maybe you'll win. So that is it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me here again in the Homestead Kitchen. My name is Constance at A Good Life Farm, and I'll talk to y'all next time.